I mean, Leonard Fournette he scored 183.4 fantasy points.
And I think Lamar Jackson kind of cements himself kind of above and beyond, right? I think
With the Trader Joe's, we're going to be staying far away.
About someone like a Josh Allen or someone like a Daniel Jones.
I know before we go, I know Joe has some breaking news. And
This is why I say Fournette is like eating gladly.
How's everybody doing today? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the Indecision Cave for our very first episode. I am your host, Ryan Grace, and I am alongside three of my teammates, three of my league mates, Just Blaze, Ashton Jones, and Joseph Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do with this show is we're going to take you through our league, the Indecision Cave, a league that was started 5 years ago by our commissioner, Ashton Jones. We've had the same 12 members for the last 5 years. And every single year, we get a little bit better every single time at how we're going to make ourselves the perfect league. So this year, we're entering our 5th year. And I just want to throw it to my commissioner, Ashton, to tell us, Ashton, what did it take for you to put together this kind of league? What were you looking for in your league mates, and how do you think it's going so far?
I've always been in fantasy football. Back when we went to school together at UConn, never could have a consistent league. So once I started being involved in a group with a bunch of fine young gentlemen that we have here today, it was just kind of a no-brainer. We started with a couple of people that came in and out. We kind of just moved from there. Right now, I think our team, our league is great. We have a bunch of dedicated individuals. We had them for 4 years, 12. We have a group chat that we talk through year round, so it feels like a family. It's definitely big, and
gonna talk that shit. Everybody just out here being nice.
And that's one of our league mates, Kyle, my roommate. Yeah, yeah. So
I talk about Trader Joe.
yeah, so yeah, that speaks to our league, man. It's pretty funny.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
Some dirt, let them know how we started.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I got for y'all.
Yeah, no, I think that was a perfect encapsulation of our league, and just like, Fitz just screaming at all of us, kind of berating the league with different storylines and different scenarios of why things don't need to happen. And so we're glad to have Fitz in the background. And ladies and gentlemen, at some point you will meet one of our other league mates, Kyle Higgins, who will, jump in, give his analysis, and tell you what he thinks about fantasy football. One thing that we want to do with this show is we're not the experts of fantasy football. So we're not going to give you guys draft rankings or, this is what you need to do to be successful. What we're going to do is walk you through our league and how it's been sustainable and how it's been fun, and just give a little bit of analysis of players that we like and don't like. And hopefully by listening to us, by understanding how we became a cohesive group, you'll be able to take some of that away, bring it to your league, but then also take some of our analysis on players and maybe apply it to some of the things that you guys are going through. That's the Indecision Cave. That's our family. Next, we're going to throw it to my teammate, my boy, Just Blaze. And the reason that we have Just Blaze on the show is that in the 5 years of this league, Justin is the all-time winningest member of the Indecision Cave with 35 career wins. So, Justin, as the league regular season champion multiple times, what does it take to continually be so excellent as a fantasy football player?
Well, first, I feel like we need some theme music when we start. What y'all think?
We'll make it happen, man. I think we can do that.
All right. It's literally just being competitive. Every week, you're just going, and I just don't want to get embarrassed every week. So that's my whole focus. I'm trying to go in, always win, not be intimidated, and essentially get myself to a point where I can be a league champion. That's really all it is. It's no secret.
So you've had all this unprecedented success in your 5 years, and you mean to tell me you've never been a league champion?
Yeah, there's certain reasons for that. I don't know if I want to expose some of our other league members for collusion, but essentially this year is the year that I'm aiming to get that chip, as always, every year.
Now, Justin, we have 4 hosts, or 4 people on the chat right now. Is it true that you are the only person on this page right now that doesn't have a championship?
Yeah, man. That's what it's looking like.
So it seems like you have a lot to prove in year 2020.
In the playoffs. I mean, regular season, y'all know what I do. Y'all know what I'm here for. So that ain't nothing.
I hear, I hear you. I hear you. And then the other person who we have who will be a weekly host or a weekly member of the show is one of my favorite league mates. We call him Trader Joe. As you guys heard Fitz in the background berating him. We'll dive into why he's Trader Joe. But Joseph Hall, you joined the league. You were one of the last additions to the league, like Ashton was mentioning. How did it feel joining a league that already had some cohesion, already had a family atmosphere, and not only how did it feel joining that kind of league, but how did you assimilate yourself, and what are some things that you do to make sure that people take you seriously in this league?
Hello, family. Like you said, I go by Joe. Um, it was really a already wrapped gift. Like the league was already cohesive. Most of you guys knew each other. You guys live in Connecticut. A mutual friend, Mo, league mate Mo, one of my best friends. He told me y'all had a spot. I got in. I saw how tight y'all were. I saw that y'all were informed. I saw that y'all were competitive. And I saw that y'all, like, it was a respectful league. So, like, everything you would want in the league, the gift was already there. And I guess one-on-one go together. Mo got along with y'all. I got along with him. So it just worked out perfectly. What was the second half of your question?
So one, we wanted to know what it was like joining the league. Thank you very much. And the other thing that we wanted you to touch on is just like, Justin's the trailblazer, the winningest all-time regular season player, but you're respectable in your own right. Like, what do you kind of do when it comes to staying consistent and staying competitive in a league where everybody, like you said, is well-read and up on their information?
Look, man, being competitive is just in my blood. And right now, as an employee, like in the government and a family man, I got a wife, a kid, one on the way. Breaking news, I ain't tell everybody, by the way. I got another one on the way. I don't have an outlet to let out all this competitive nature in me. And outside of Xbox, I got this league, and what drives me to be competitive in this league is I want respect on my name. That's what I'm aiming for. Y'all haven't met me, in person yet, but I think I'm slowly getting there. But I want y'all to know, okay, Joe knows what he's talking about, and if I face Joe, if I got in a matchup, I'm in for a fight. So that's what drives me. So I listen to the podcasts, articles, pick people's brains. I do what I can. I got my first championship last year, so I'm even more driven.
There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, like we said, we're going to be probably the 4 hosts you see on a weekly basis. We have 8 other league mates, all educated, all diehard fantasy football fans. We're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to dive into old faces.
Real fast. I know before we go, I know Joe had some breaking news, and I saw it on my phone,
sir.
and we told him hold on this, so I want him to break it because it's crazy.
Yes, sir.
Joe, break the news, man.
Say it real slow.
All right, here we go. Ian Rappaport, former Jaguars running back Leonard Fournette, is planning to sign with the Bucs.
Respectfully.
What? Ladies and gentlemen, Leonard Fournette joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it was the perfect segue as we head to this commercial break, because when we come back, we're going to discuss old faces in new places. Welcome back to our first episode of the Indecision Cave podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Ryan Grace, and I'm with my 3 co-hosts, Trader Joe, Just Blaze, and our commissioner, Ashton Jones.
What it is?
Ladies and gentlemen, before the commercial break, Trader Joe with the breaking news that Leonard Fournette is now a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Leonard Fournette was drafted by Justin last year. So Just Blaze, please tell us a little bit about what people should be expecting from Leonard Fournette.
So it's like, if you took like a glass bottle and you broke it, and then you took some of those pieces and you put them between 2 pieces of bread, and then you chew it. Leonard Fournette is such a stress to deal with. I think it's mostly because of like last year how his projected his ADP was pretty much, first 2 rounds, but his production didn't really match that every single week. So this year should be a little more pleasant because I don't think people will have that same expectation. And given that he'll be on our team with a Bruce Arians offense that typically passes about 60 to 65% of the time, he won't be expected to do too much. So anything he gives will be an added bonus.
I think I completely agree. And Justin, before we kind of move over to one of our other teammates, how about from a personal side? You're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Like, how are you feeling with this crazy offense and now adding, even though he had a down year for you, a 1,000-yard rusher to this team? Like, how are you feeling as a Tampa Bay Bucs fan?
I feel like we've had the best offseason ever in history of football. Number one.
Possibly.
Number two, I just want my real team to be better than my fantasy team. So this is a good year for that to happen. So I'm just elated as a Tampa Bay fan who has been through the struggle since 2000 that we have a good chance of returning to the chip.
Possibly. We wish you the best of luck, even though we don't really mess with the Bucs at all. I'm kidding. Joe, as someone who kind of does your draft strategy and your analysis and all this kind of stuff, Leonard Fournette was projected to be about a late second, third round pick. Now, moving to a team where he's got an elite, maybe the GOAT quarterback. They have 2 top wide receivers. They have 3 very strong tight ends, a lot of offense, a lot of firepower out there in Tampa. What do you think we should be expecting from Leonard Fournette?
Well, I can tell you what the Trader Joes are going to do this year. We're going to be staying far away.
Wow.
Yes, they may be a good offense. He may be a good fit. It may be an upgrade to the running back room. But for my fantasy team, who needs consistency and a little bit of predictability, not on my radar. I'll tell you why. This offseason has, we all know COVID is going on and its effects on this offseason. And going to a new team is hard enough as it is, and training camps have been tampered with and all that stuff. Now you add on to that, the league is supposed to start in a week and a half?
Yes, sir. September 10th.
So a whole new playbook. We don't know where the mindset of the split that the coach is going to call, who's number 1, who's number 2, how long it's going to take them to get acclimated, all that stuff. I don't have the patience. Now, if I can get them in the 12th round or something super late, and I can let him, rock out on my bench and wait till he gets it right to the second half of the season, I'll take it. But it always comes down to the price and value for me.
I hear you loud and clear. Ashton, I mean, Leonard Fournette he scored 183.4 fantasy points. You figure if you divide that by the 16 games of the season, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's averaging 11, maybe 12 points per game. Are Justin and Joe overreacting at all, or are you also staying away from Lenny Fournette?
We, the team manager of Deli Got a Chub, are slightly on the fence with Leonard Fournette. I'm looking at, so our league is through ESPN, right? So I'm gonna just look at some ESPN stats on Leonard Fournette. And so if we look at all of 2019, the actual amount of total points he provided was 259, right? And so his position rank was 7. Mind you, he was on a Jaguars team that was always behind. So they stopped running the ball, right? They stopped running, so you're not going to see a lot of running. You're expecting Tampa Bay to continue to score, right? You're going to see them be a very high-powered offensive team. So I'm looking here at his stats. Once again, against the Chargers, he had his lowest input game with 9.3 points, but he's consistently at least getting you 12 fantasy points, which, I mean, if he's your RB1, probably not something you want, but no one's drafting as an RB1. So you're thinking RB2, RB3. So he provides you with that quality look. And so I might be showing my hand. I might take a look at him. He's not one person that in my mock drafts, I haven't mocked him at all. I think with him being on the Buccaneers, I think you kind of still have to wait because they have a flooded backfield. And you just kind of got to see. I mean, running back's a little bit easier to understand the schemes. As long as he can block for Tom Brady, I think he'll be good. But Tom Brady also likes running backs who can catch out the backfield, nice little screen passes. Even though he only had 3 touchdowns, I mean, he put up numbers. Against Denver, he put up 225 rushing yards. Carolina, 108. Cincinnati, 131. Against Tennessee, he put up 36.9 points. That was his best performance last year. And so, I mean, he's up and down. Also, I feel like this year is going to either be Super Bowl or bust for them Buccaneers. So,
Respectfully. But
Respectfully,
let me tell you about
respectfully.
that Tennessee game. This is why I say Fournette is like eating glass, because I watched that game. That was like a Thursday night game. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, this should be easy. Leonard Fournette get his 100 yards, get a touchdown, we all set. He didn't get the bulk of his yards until the last, I want to say, 6 minutes of the game on a 75-yard run. So he's one of those running backs where it's kind of like you really don't know what you're getting, but the numbers look good.
Got it. No, and so I think you guys all brought up some valid points, and I think Ashton hit it right on the head. If you're looking at Leonard Fournette as your RB1, if you're maybe drafting wide receivers and he's your number one running back, you might be in a little bit of trouble. But if you are taking running backs early and you kind of catch him with your RB2 or flex position, he's probably a quality ad. And speaking of other quality ads and sticking with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Justin's talking about the best offseason in the whole NFL. Dallas Cowboys fans probably got something to say about that. But Justin's pumped about his Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Justin, you guys added Tom Brady. You guys added Rob Gronkowski. How do you feel Tom Brady will be in that offense? And do you think that it will increase his fantasy value going from a system that he created and perfected to this Bruce Arians system that is going to, Jameis Winston had 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. Like, where do you think Tom Brady's going to fall this year?
Well, first off, let's not talk about our exes. Jameis is gone. We moved on.
Ooh, buddy.
That's all it is. So yeah, we here with Tom. We got the new kid on the block, even though he over 40. But I like that he's with Bruce Arians, and I like that we've surrounded him with key talent. I don't think he's had this much talent on any New England Patriot team since Randy Moss. So we should be seeing some glimmers of that old Tom Brady. We put a good line to help protect him. As you can see, we just got Fournette, another weapon that he can add to his arsenal. So this is looking promising for us.
Sticking with you for a second, Justin. Let's say hypothetically my quarterback rankings are Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. Do you think Tom Brady can elevate himself to that number 4 kind of quarterback pick? Or is he still behind guys like Stafford, Dak Prescott, Drew Brees?
I'm going to give him, given all things considered, I'll say QB7.
Wow. Okay. So that's still a guy that you want to definitely start week after week. Joe, do you kind of agree with that, or is he still a little bit below that, even with all these weapons?
Everyone predicts it every year, probably since Tom hit his late 30s. But come on, what is he going to be? What, 43? Something
42.
like that. 42. He's a good quarterback. Probably no one in the league will be able to read the field like he can. So those short intermediate routes, he's probably still going to be sharp. But I understand from camp they said he has been throwing the deep ball, but look, that age is scaring me. He's been just like a freak of nature to be able to last this long and be good this long, but eventually. So I could be wrong. This may not be the year. It may be 46. But who I'm gonna be avoiding him because I personally don't want to take a risk. I may take a risk with someone else who may be a little bit more questionable, but I'm not gonna put my poker chips on Mr. Brady this year.
I mean, you
So
don't have to.
who are you going to put your poker chips on at quarterback, Trader Joe?
Oh, at quarterback, those chips are already on the table with the MVP. of the 2019 season, Mr. Lamar Jackson, which our league is a keeper league, and I just had to keep that screaming value. I get Lamar Jackson for a 9th round pick because I chose him in a 10th round pick. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's a steal.
Yes, sir. So good luck, Mr. Brady, but Mr. Jackson and the Trader Joe's, I think will be all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, you did not see my man Commissioner Jones's reaction as soon as I said, where does Tom Brady rank? But Ashton, you clearly are not a fan of Tommy Terrific this season. Like, what's going on? Talk to us.
So when you talk about fantasy, you want someone who could put up numbers for you. I think outside of the top 3 quarterbacks, and I think Lamar Jackson kind of cements himself kind of above and beyond, right? I think last year I was listening to the ESPN fantasy show. I think he had 40 points over QB2, right? And so he puts himself in a league of his own. And then you look at Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, kind of those top 3 guys. Those guys can all run. So they can give you some rushing yards. They can give you some rushing TDs. Tom Brady, you're just looking at a pure aerial attack and hoping for TDs. You might see in the red zone kind of losing some of those to kind of maybe Leonard Fournette just kind of punching it in. And that's Kyle again talking about the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks.
Absolutely. This is ridiculous. I don't know how it's going to overtime, but
Jeez Louise. So Justin.
Simple, bro.
Just call it timeout. Goodness. Thank you, Fitz, for that expert analysis. Oh my goodness. So Justin, keeping with Ashton's point about, you want a quarterback who brings a different kind of value. In your kind of rankings or your thoughts, what about someone like a Josh Allen or someone like a Daniel Jones who are not close to the quarterback that Tom Brady is, but they provide a little bit with the running game? Like, do you think Brady with all these weapons is still a more valuable pick than those guys? Or would you kind of lean more towards the scrambling rusher after the likes of those top 3, 4 quarterbacks that we've already mentioned?
See, that's the problem with y'all youngsters these days. Y'all forget
Yikes.
that good quarterbacking doesn't really have to involve a rushing quarterback, because Tom is really doing this without his feet. So that's just putting him in a class of his own. It would be nice to have that dual threat quarterback, but just think about it, like, that's the thing with fantasy. It makes you think somebody like Josh Allen is really a good quarterback, when in fact he's not that great. He's just good for fantasy numbers.
Okay, so we know where if it comes down to it, we know where you're leaning with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over someone like Josh Allen.
Baby, you already know.
And, like you said, and it was the offseason that kept on giving. You guys took Rob Gronkowski out of retirement, and, his last season wasn't great. But the year before that, Rob Gronkowski is a top 3, top 4 tight end in the NFL, both as a talent and as a fantasy player. Justin, do you think that in any way he can get back to that form, or have we seen the best days of Rob Gronkowski?
I mean, we've probably seen the best days. I don't even think we're getting him to be that elite tight end. I feel like it's more of some type of distraction. Like, he's there to, get the defense eyes on him while we have our other weapons taking the defense over the top. So I'm glad that we got him because, Tom and Gronk, they have that chemistry. So anything he does is surplus that we don't expect. But he's one of the other 3 great tight ends that we have. So I would love for him to produce, give us some of that glimpse of that New England success. But if not, it's no sweat on my back.
Just a plethora of options over there in Tampa Bay. Joe, do you have anything you want to add about Rob Gronkowski kind of coming over? Like, do you see any value in him as a tight end, or is he just someone that maybe you grab off of waivers?
Right. This is another Buck member who is not on the Trader Joe's radar. So from what I understanding, and then Jess, you can cut me off if you need to, but I understand you have a questionable was it left tackle or right tackle? There's somebody over there who may need a little help. And Gronk is not just a good receiver, he's a great blocker. And I could see him doing a lot of help over there to make sure if he needs an extra hand, you know, he can nudge him a little bit. But like you said, you already got two other good tight ends on top of Mike Evans and Goodwin. And you just added, like, there's too many mouths to feed. And to consider all that, and he's injury prone, and he didn't play football at all last year, and another year older, we good.
A resounding no from Trader Joe in regards to Rob Gronkowski. Jeez Louise, put the stamp on it. Ashton, we want to come to you, but we're going to move on from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we're going to go to where Gronk and Tom Brady created that magic that Justin so eloquently spoke about. We're heading up to the Northeast. We're heading to New England, and they just added a brand new quarterback. Some people have them as a top 5 team in the NFL overall because of the 6'5", 250-pound specimen, Cam Newton. How do you feel about him this year, and do you think he has any resurgence left in that tank?
I mean, anyone who's a former league MVP is going to have some type of expectation of accelerating a team to a standing in which we didn't project the Patriots being after Tom Brady left and then seeing Gronk come out of retirement and leaving as well. It's hard. We haven't seen Cam healthy for 2 years now, whether it's shoulder or foot injury. So you really don't know what to expect. And the foot injury is kind of what's more concerning, right? Because he's a running quarterback. A lot of his value comes with running. We haven't really seen a truly accurate Cam Newton in a couple of years, and given off of accuracy, his shoulder injury, right? And so to crown them as top 5 teams in the league, especially with so many people on the defensive end holding out because of COVID, it's going to be a hard battle. And not with so many, a limited amount of weapons around him. I mean, they just released Mohamed Sanu today, so all he really has is N'Keal Harry, Julian Edelman. You don't even know what that backfield looks like. It's an utter mess. And so in a division where you see teams around them getting better, the Buffalo Bills are a concern, not in a bad way, but a concern as in from a competition standpoint. Miami looks okay, right? Just the 2 receiver combo of Preston Williams and Devontae Parker looks really good. No one really cares about the Jets, right? They're kind of just, but they're like the Washington football team of NFC East, and so I hope Cam has a good season. I'm not drafting him, but just as you want to see Cam do well, like he was at one point to face the NFL before he completely plummeted after that Super Bowl run season, and so you kind of want to see that joyful playing around, dancing Cam, and how that kind of works with Bill Belichick, right? In New England.
Exactly.
So it'll be interesting.
So I'm not going to go back to Joe and Justin about this because like Joe told you, we're in a keeper league, ladies and gentlemen. And so they got the good fortune of having Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. And actually, Ashton also has Russell Wilson. So I'm talking to a bunch of guys who don't worry about quarterbacks. But for a guy like me, who has no quarterback and rode the Jameis train all last season, Cam's an intriguing prospect for someone like me because I think Bill Belichick, what I've learned from Belichick and from the offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, is that they're going to put their players in the best position to succeed. And so we're going to see Cam doing all the things that Cam Newton does well. And so I think we're going to see a lot of RPO. I think we're going to see those QB runs that he made famous. I think he's going to take out some D tackles. I think he's going to take out some linebackers. And I think they're going to stick with the intermediate throws until N'Keal Harry kind of develops. Julian Edelman is a slicer and dicer in the middle of the field. I'm big on Cam Newton, ladies and gentlemen. And that's not to say he's a top 3 or top 4 pick. But if I'm one of those drafters who's going to wait till the late rounds, as I probably have to be because, like I said, my league mates have the 3 best quarterbacks from a fantasy perspective, I can wait a little bit and get some supreme value out of someone like Cam Newton. So injuries aside, as long as my man stays healthy, I'm big on Cam Newton. And I think he has the potential to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback this year, but he's at least someone who you start on a weekly basis. So I'm all in on Cam Newton. The last person that we're going to talk to, we're going to transition to another name that maybe you forgot about because this offseason has been kind of crazy. But this guy is an absolute star. And actually, he was in a trade with another star But we're going to start talking about maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL, DeAndre Nuke Hopkins. Trader Joe, talk to me about Nuke.
Okay, so as I'll probably reference with a lot of players who are particularly new teams, I'm lowering them than maybe they'll be on the ADP because it's a new team, less time to be acclimated with the quarterback and learn the system. Now they may pick it up in the second half of the season, but that may be too late. You can't deny the talent. Dude is elite, top 5, top 3. You can argue that easily. But I think what we've seen from him, you may have to lower your expectations if you had him on your team and he was just, potentially winning you weeks. He had less people on his squad to share targets with. Now, Will Fuller is a good wide receiver, but couldn't stay healthy. Outside of him, it wasn't much to pass to over there. But now you got Christian Kirk, Kenyon Drake, who's a very capable receiving running back. And I just think with the addition to being having more competition on the team and going to a new team and not having that chemistry with the quarterback, he's a little bit lower on my board. Next year, I might be back on that train. But for me, I'm tempering my expectations.
Ashton, how do you feel about Nuke, knowing that he could be a first-round pick of yours?
I don't know if Duke would be a first round pick of mine. I think I'm looking at Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, but I would. I'm looking at stats, right? And so I use Fantasy Pros, and so I'm just kind of looking at stats on like Duke, and I'm comparing him to like Michael Thomas, Julio, Devontae Adams. I don't even know why I picked Devontae Adams. I should have picked someone else, but it is what it is. And DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm trying to see if I can find strength of schedule. I don't know if it's showing it here. But even just like we're looking at like season totals, he's third amongst those, and he's third behind um, Deontay Adams being fourth, right? And so I think he's in a good situation. I can't lie. I think you're under Cliff Kingsbury. You have a spread offense. You have Kyler Murray. The man has had Brock Osweiler as a quarterback and continue to dominate. So you add him a quarterback where teams can't really stack the box. They got to kind of be aware of his Kyler Murray's ability to rush. I don't know what their run game looks like. Kenyon Drake looked good towards the end of last year, and even Chase Edmonds looked kind of good when Kenyon Drake wasn't playing. And so, once again, I think it's an honest offense. You have two other good receivers there as well with Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald. I think they have Isabella as well, which is like a upcoming and emerging receiver. But he should be able to open up that offense. And I don't know what their strength of schedule is. I wasn't able to look that up, but I think he still is going to be a top 3 fantasy pickup. So, I mean, if he drops me at the bottom of the first round, y'all foolish, and I'm taking him.
Top 3 fantasy pickup?
No. Receiver, top 3 receiver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. So if he falls to me at the bottom of the second round, y'all foolish. But I think you'll have a great year.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are our old faces and new places. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into the Indecision Cave a little bit and talk to you about some of our strategies as we get ready for our draft next Wednesday, September 9th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome back to the inaugural episode of the Indecision Cave Show. We are drafting, like we said, next Thursday, September 9th at 9 p.m. And one of our hosts, the commissioner, no collusion involved, landed the number 1 pick. So, Ashton, if you could give our viewers just a little taste or a little glimpse of who you're looking at with the number 1 overall pick.
So this year's trash, and let's explain why.
Please.
So this is our first year doing keepers.
Yep.
Which means that as much you would assume, Christian McCaffrey a keeper, off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Saquon Barkley, a keeper, off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Ezekiel Elliott, a keeper, off the board. So who does that leave you with, right? And so you think of, all right, you want to draft a running back in earlier rounds, right? Just because the gap between running backs is massive, right? You can find receivers, you can find quarterbacks. There's only really like 4 good tight ends, so you really want to look at running backs. So the 2 running backs.
That's your strategy. You're big on the running backs early kind of thing.
I got it.
Why you sound surprised, Ryan? Isn't that like universal?
I mean, I definitely wouldn't
it's
say
debatable.
I definitely wouldn't say it's universal. I'd say it kind of it depends where you're drafting and who's available, and then you kind of build your strategy off of that. I mean, I guess in an ideal world, like Ashton said, there's such a gap between the greats and the with running backs.
Yeah.
Maybe you take one of those, but like, you know, if you're able to land 2 stud wide receivers or a stud wide receiver and one of those great tight ends, and maybe grab another one on the way around in your flex, like, I could see you waiting for running backs. But, you know, Ashton's done well.
Yes.
The guy's won a championship. He's made the playoffs all 5 of his years. The commissioner clearly knows what he's talking about. So
Yes,
running backs it is, ladies and gentlemen. Ashton, talk to us, I guess.
I mean, let's also add that I've been to the championship game 3 years in a row. Let's not forget about
forgot that.
I lost
Ryan.
2 though.
You
Don't
forgot.
forget
I
that
lost
part.
2 though. I lost 2 though. I lost 2. The last 2 I've lost.
Wait, how many have you lost?
I've lost 2.
And have they been the most recent 2?
Yeah. One of them is to actually Joe, who on my WebEx app is right above me. So I lost to Joe. The year before that
Was a collusion. Tell the
I lost
truth.
to the
Ooh,
team that got
collusion.
traded
Justin.
Ezekiel Elliott and took Justin out the playoffs, and
Y'all
that
saw
team
what happened, man.
Yeah, it was a trash trade. And the year before that, where there was no asterisk, I won.
But
Not
a
saying
trash
Joe's year
trade
was an
still.
asterisk, but Joe also had a very sus trade at the beginning of the year last year. But we won't talk about that right now.
Okay,
yeah.
well, why not talk about it? What?
If we're throwing
completely
shots,
forgot the trade.
If
I
we gonna
completely
go
forgot the
there.
trade.
Right.
I completely forgot the trade.
Joe, enlighten us real quick, man.
Okay, it's pretty simple. All right, well, let me unpack it a little bit, right? So in life, right,
Oh, geez.
everything is about relationships, right? So I have a good working relationship and fantasy, talk back and forth. What's your mindset? What's your thoughts with Mo? So he knows he can walk in my office. We can talk business. I'm not going to give him a trash offer. I'm not going to renege, agree to a trade and then back out. No funny business. He knows I'm trustworthy. I know he's trustworthy. So he was in a situation. He didn't prepare well for his draft that particular year. And he was like, man, I'm not feeling this team. He had some post-draft regrets. And he wanted to shake it up. He offered me a trade I couldn't refuse. There was no back and forth. Now I had to play it coy because in my mind I was like, "You sure you want to do this?"
Oh, so you knew you were taking advantage of the one friend you had that brought you into the league.
So that
answer that question real quick.
That's interesting wording. Take advantage.
One friend brought you in.
So are you saying that anytime you win a trade, you're taking advantage of someone? So you in your life have taken advantage of your friends in the league as well, right?
My friend had a bad draft, came to me in a time of need, and you left with a number 1 overall pick on top of yours.
This is business, right?
Wow.
This is business.
So call it what it is.
Yes, this is business.
Take advantage of your man.
No. I took a offer where I felt I had the better value. He wouldn't have made the trade if he felt, didn't feel the same for him. So that's that. We're just gonna leave that there.
Ashton, did you feel like going into that championship game that you were at a slight disadvantage even though your team was ready to rock?
Nah, I mean, I was confident in my team last year. I'm trying to find the actual stats. I'm trying to find the trade.
Joe, do you remember the trade, Joe?
I can't forget it.
I can tell you a lot of it.
I found it.
Please, Ace.
I found it.
Please share with
So
the class.
yeah. So Mo traded Devontae Adams, Zach Ertz, Jarvis Landry, LaShawn McCoy, and Cole Beasley for Adam Thielen, D.D. Westbrook, Tyler Boyd, Malcolm Brown, Hunter Henry. Let's
Joe,
just go through that. Let's just go.
sorry.
Adam Thielen, hurt most of the year. D.D. Westbrook, hurt most of the year. Hunter Henry, hurt most of the year.
IR.
Malcolm Brown, trash. Tyler Boyd, nah.
See,
Go ahead.
see, right now we have the beauty of retrospect, right?
Oh my
So all the
We
dudes,
called collusion immediately. The chat was in flames,
of
brother.
course, y'all did, because y'all saw the same imbalance in the trade offer as I did. Not my fault. Not my fault.
And
Not my fault.
then hold on. And then Joe immediately trades LaShawn McCoy for Frank Gore. Immediately gets him the heck out of here.
Oh yeah. Look, D.D. Westbrook, he was supposed to have that lock chemistry with Nick Foles. Boyd was supposed to be eating in the slot. Like obviously in his mind, he had to find information out there that justified the trade. So my players had a lot of hype, and we saw Thielen eat. Was it the year before or 2 years, whatever? So it it definitely was an unbalanced trade. But look, I was the benefactor, so y'all need to build y'all relationships, right?
Wow.
And then maybe y'all could benefit from something like that.
Trader Joe, indeed.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can see why we call him Trader Joe, and it's not just because he's a trader, but he went against all that this league stands for and was a trader. The integrity.
Oh, so
Some might say.
the rest of the league doesn't have history with these type of trades, huh?
No, Ashton definitely has some history, but Ashton,
Absolutely.
so
You
Ashton,
are not the first.
Ashton, and actually Justin more than anyone. Justin, 2 years ago, I believe you were undefeated in the regular season,
Couldn't beat me. I was on track for the chip.
and then in the semifinals, you ran into a situation of sorts. You mind explaining that to our fans a little bit?
So there was some happenings going on within the league of those that were beneath me in terms of record. So I was pretty much elite, you know. I had the goose egg in the lose column every week. Set it and forget it. I'm chilling. I'm taking trips. I ain't even worried about it. I'm just making sure my lineup is good and I'm winning by a lot.
And hold on, Justin, was that the year you had Patrick Mahomes? That was the year he went off?
Yeah, that was the year I drafted Patrick Mahomes in the 9th round, by the way.
Oh, that makes me feel good about this year.
Yeah,
You
so
had Tyreek Evans too. I mean, you had Tyreek Hill, right?
Yeah, I took Tyreek, I think 5th round, something light,
Did you have George Kittle also?
I think I did take George Kittle in the 4th. Okay.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So, it was I was going to the chip. And then I believe it was around Thanksgiving. There was some
holiday
rumblings.
we all enjoy.
Yeah, there was some rumblings from one of the lower seeded players that pretty much didn't have a chance to make the playoffs. They were going for the worst record in the league. And one day, randomly, just threw it out there like, highest offer for Ezekiel Elliott. So I saw it. Everybody saw it in the chat. I didn't really, take it too serious. I'm just thinking, my team is stacked. I could get better, but it really wouldn't be fair. So I'll leave it alone. Then I believe it was 2 days before the trade deadline. So that Saturday, was it Saturday? I think the Saturday came up, and all of a sudden we see, the trade indicator come. And somehow, some way, that trade went through for Ezekiel Elliott for who was it?
Ace, do the research.
I'm looking right now.
Was it
obviously someone who wasn't on Zeke's level?
It was Marlon Mack and AJ Green for Ezekiel Elliott. Mind you, AJ Green was hurt.
Yeah, that was AJ Green was hurt. So it was Marlon Mack who was having an okay solid year.
And a
AJ Green,
box
who
of colored
wasn't playing
pencils.
for Ezekiel Elliott. And so obviously you run into a team that's like just behind you, and now they've revamped by getting a wide receiver out that's not playing, a running back that's for a top 1, top 2 running back in the NFL, Justin. Do we want to continue with how that story ends, sir?
And then that team somehow sneaks into the playoffs. I
Wow.
get a bye week. They win their first round game, and then they get me in the second round while the primary players on my team are resting for the playoffs. So, obvious loss.
Dang. So in the year where you were absolutely loaded, collusion took you out.
True
And
collusion.
true collusion. And Justin, let the good viewers know what your fantasy football team's name has been since that moment.
Oh, collusion trophy. Absolutely. I had to do it last year because I was still a little bitter, but I did make sure I beat Banks in our head-to-head matchup. So that's the bittersweet revenge that I got.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Banks is another member of our league who will have one in a future show. But wait, let's get back to the task at hand. Commissioner Ashton, don't think you're running away from this. Number 1 pick. We know that there's no Zeke. We know there's no Saquon. We know there's no CMC. Let the people know who you're looking at.
Right. So just kind of going back again, you're left with really 3 options, right? And whether that's Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, or you do something crazy with Michael Thomas, right? I'm 100% not going to go receiver because I don't draft again until obviously the end of the second round. So a lot of those premier running backs, if I were to go receiver first, would be gone. So now the hard part is all right, who you choose between Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook? Both of them are looking for contract extensions. One of them, which is Dalvin Cook, has been taking limited snaps in training camp because of contract negotiations. Of recent, you all have heard Alvin Kamara held out for about 4 days of not going to practice. He returned today. Today is Wednesday. So they're still talking contract negotiations. So I'm in a really tough spot. The 2 running backs that are available are going through contract negotiations, and you really don't know what's going on.
Yikes.
It's very much so difficult, right? So I honestly don't know. At first, I had Alvin Kamara kind of at the top of my list. Like, I'm going to go with him. And kind of everything I've looked at from an ESPN, Yahoo, when you look at ranks of running backs, it's just like Alvin Kamara in front of Dalvin Cook. I had Dalvin Cook last year, and he did me nothing but phenomenal. Like, he did me justice, poetic justice. And I was thinking of maybe drafting him again. So I honestly don't know. I was leaning towards Alvin Kamara before the contract talks. Now I'm looking at Dalvin Cook. I know Minnesota is kind of a run-heavy team, so we saw with their new head coach last year, they started running the ball more, which is why Stephon Diggs is getting annoyed last year. New Orleans has a lot of weapons on offense with Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook, Michael Thomas, and Taysom Hill. So I don't know. If I'm looking at all right, week 1, right? The Saints play the Buccaneers.
You factor in the first week?
I'm just looking at the first week. They play the Buccaneers, and then I think the week after, I think that same week, the Minnesota Vikings play
the Packers.
Green Bay.
Yes, sir.
I can't remember. I was looking at it earlier this offseason, and I was just trying to understand from like a strength of schedule. I believe the New Orleans Saints have an easier strength of schedule than the Minnesota Vikings, and so that's why I was kind of leading towards Alvin
Interesting.
Kamara.
Okay.
Because let me pick your brain here real quick, because I've heard a lot of analysts say like you can almost ignore the strength of schedule. It's just a stat that you can use, but we've seen so much crazy turnover from someone going to elite to being trash and vice versa. There's so many changes during an off season. A team could look totally different, and that to judge what a defense, for example, is going to be this year based on how they perform next year is just chasing the wind type of thing. So you hold a little bit more confidence in teams repeating how well they did the year before.
So I mean, to add to that, if you're speaking from a defensive standpoint, that's just one of the things I look at. Like, how hard is their schedule? What top defenses are these two running backs playing? Especially with me not having a clear pick on who's better than the other, or kind of
Oh, you're
relatively
looking
similar,
for little
depending on.
things that's going to differ.
Right. So
Little triggers.
I
Right.
have to find little tidbits on what exactly to do later on. So if I'm just looking here, right, Dalvin Cook. So I had him last year. He got hurt, missed a little time. But if you're looking at the last couple of games, right, I'm going to go from eight, week 8 down. He has 90. I mean, this one's probably a bad one, but his last good game, well, last two good games was week 8 and week 10. So he had 23 carries for 93 yards. That's not really that efficient, right? Or 23 carries for 98 yards. That's not that efficient. Against Dallas, he had 26 carries for 97 yards. So those two games, he had 28 points, 31 points, respectively. He plays Kansas City, has 21 attempts for 71 yards. Against Denver, he has 11 attempts for 26 yards. Against Seattle, he has 9 attempts for 29 yards. Against Detroit, he has 18
he tailed
for
off.
62.
He clearly tailed off at the end.
Right. And then for the Chargers, which was probably a game we really didn't matter, which was week 15, he had 7 points, 9 attempts for 27 yards. And mind you, towards the end, he was battling with injuries. But with that,
Without context,
Joe,
like without seeing the game, without seeing the game is hard to do that, you know. But
yeah,
go ahead.
No, so I did my research as well, just context wise, and I was reading stats on how their offensive line play, so yards per attempt, started to dwindle down towards the end of last season, which then allows you to think about, all right, where does their offensive line look at the beginning of the year? I believe they lost someone on the O-line. I'm not 100% sure. And so that's something that I also wanted to equate into, is like, does that impact the amount of work that Dalvin Cook has? Does Alexander, his backup, bleed into those? And the same thing for Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray. So I don't know. I'm in a hard spot. And right now I'm leading a little bit towards Alvin Kamara, but who knows? You got a week left. Going to read reports.
Right.
If Dalvin Cook isn't taking more reps in that practice, I'm probably going to go Alvin Kamara, just because Dalvin Cook, if you're talking between the two, I know Alvin Kamara wasn't healthy last year, but Alvin Kamara has been healthy for at least the amount of time he's been in the NFL, versus Dalvin Cook missed his first year. Every year he's had injury concerns. And so that's kind of where I'm at. But either one, I'm not really upset about.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good dive into it. And, you know, I think something that I really will take away from what you're saying is that, like, when there's barely a hairline difference between players, like diving into strength of schedule, checking out their matchups, checking out their offensive line, are all things that are going to come into play. So Ashton, you're doing a really good job, man. But something about our league that maybe not all leagues have, because we're a keeper league, all this good stuff, we're trading draft picks. And so that's a strategy that some people have kind of used to, you know, add some depth, maybe get a few more mid-level players. And Ashton's the number 1 pick. We know he doesn't know what he's doing yet. The number 2 pick in our league is going to be Saquon Barkley as a keeper. Number 3, Justin has to wait for Ashton's pick to kind of know what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then at number 4, you have me, ladies and gentlemen. And I've bought in. I'm listening to these guys. These guys are champions, not Justin, obviously, but these guys are champions. And so we're thinking Ashton takes one running back, Justin takes another running back, and I'm kind of at a little bit of a loss. So right now, I'm shipping the number 4 pick if any of you guys are interested in it.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking that, you know, maybe I can land a 2nd and a 3rd round pick for number 4. Do you guys think that that's a good strategy? Is that a bold strategy? Like,
how far are you willing to go back to get those?
I mean, it depends what someone's willing to offer, Joe. You know, I'm always listening to trades. I'm always receptive. I think for the number 4 pick, right? Like if I'm taking a 2nd or 3rd round, a 2nd and 3rd rounder, then I want to kind of trade with the Justins of the world, the Ashtons of the world, our friend Collusion Banks, who has the number 2 pick, so that on my way back, I'm able to add some real strong depth, right? Like if I end up taking the 12th pick, I'm sorry, the 12th, so the 13th pick, and then on the way back, that's like 35 or whatever that number ends up being, like 25, I guess, 25 on the way back. Like I don't know if that equals out the value to the number 4 pick. Like, am I looking at this wrong though, fellas, or am I barking up the right tree?
I kind of need the. Can you give a scenario of a particular team? Like, so you gave Justin as an example. What pick number is he?
Justin's the number 3 pick. So look at it like Justin gets the number 3 and 4 pick. So he's looking at Dalvin Cook and Michael Thomas. So he's stacked at the top. But on the way back, right? Like I'm looking in the 2nd and 3rd rounds, and I'm getting guys like Thielen. I'm getting running backs like man. I'm
maybe Mixon.
Yeah, like I'm looking at Mixon. I'm looking at maybe like a Nick Chubb kind of guy.
Ooh, I don't know. He ain't gonna make it in the 2nd. I don't think so.
Okay, so we're talking Mixon, Aaron Jones. I was definitely being a little lofty, hoping you guys let Chubb fall. We're looking at Aaron Jones. Like, let's say hypothetically, I'm able to land Mixon and Aaron Jones for the sake of this discussion, Michael Thomas. Does that balance out, or is that still something that we should stay away from?
I'd be surprised if somebody get that to you.
The 2nd and the 3rd pick?
Right.
Got it.
2nd and 3rd rounders? Yeah, nah, that's too steep.
Yeah, on that note, Ryan, we were talking before we went live about everybody has like a trade personality and their approach of how they go about talking to someone in trades.
Yeah.
For you, my perception, and y'all can agree or chime in. You do a lot of dancing, right? So it's a lot of
wow.
You start with the formalities. You're like, hey, how you doing, my friend? I hope you're having a good day, type of thing. Like you do a little massaging, right? And
Absolutely. This is good.
Right. And then he'll go into like, instead of saying I'm thinking this and this, like he'll beat around the bush a little bit, right? He really will savor the moment before actually, I'm guessing that he's waiting for you to give a trade offer that may be out left field and he can just accept it immediately. Because if he starts off with the first offer, then he may be giving you something that's true of equal value. But if someone else gives a trade offer, then it might be something that's, a little bit off. So he dances a little bit. He fills you out. But on that note, you also have typically a high asking price from my experience.
Yeah, no, I mean you're hitting it right on the head. But the fact of the matter is that when I come knocking for a trade, I want to make sure I understand what your value is for your players. And I take this right with, like, we're talking draft picks right now, but I'm talking anytime I enter the trade room with my league mates. I want to know who they value and how they value certain players. But then I also want to see, are there things within my team and within my roster that you're actually finding valuable? So when someone says, hey, I'm looking to trade or something along those lines, or even when I offer the number 4 pick, I want to know, hey, how much do you value this pick, right? Like if I come to you and I say, okay, Justin, I'll give you the number 4 pick for number 23 and 26 or whatever those numbers are, and he thinks that's totally outlandish, maybe that blows up the deal, right? So if Justin comes to me with what he deems fair, now we can kind of negotiate and work from there. When I come to people with a trade, it's because I'm trying to make a trade. I'm not just reaching out to you for the fun of it. I want to make something happen, right? And so I'm coming to you guys and I'm saying the number 4 pick, I'm ready to let this pick go, right? So what is it that you are willing to talk about to make this happen, right? And then we can kind of dance around that until we realize this works or this doesn't work. And, I might end up like you, Joe, and just say yes to that quick offer and get out of Dodge. But a lot of times I'm willing to have a fair negotiation. I think what people realize is that I know what I'm talking about. So if I'm asking for something, I think that I'm obviously trying to run some game on them. And that's what I've learned. I go to Justin, or actually, let's go back to Banks with the Collusion Trophy award. I was trying to land Marlon Mack. And obviously, he was able to parlay that into something much better than I was able to offer at that moment. But he turned down Marlon Mack for a fair running back for running back offer. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was Danny Amendola, who was in the middle of a good year with the Patriots. And he just turned it down. I don't want a wide receiver. And that was when he didn't have AJ Green. That was when his wide receiving core was struggling. He barely made the playoffs, like Justin said.
Mm-hmm.
So I came to him with a fair offer, and he's just like, no, thank you, goodbye. But I think as soon as I mentioned that Marlon Mack was worthy, that's when the conversation ended. People use me like I'm Bill Belichick, y'all.
They don't call you Grace for nothing.
There it is. There it is. So, I'm gonna end it on this. If I'm telling you guys that the number 4 pick is available, it's because the pick is available. Just knock on the door. Let's have a little chat. Let's figure it out. I'm here to serve the
Let's
people.
dance, right?
Let's dance. I'm here to serve the people.
It's like an old man trying to get little kids candy, bro. I don't want
Oh
nothing that
goodness.
big.
Oh, nah. You
Well-
giving all the children candy, bro?
I don't want no parts of that 4th pick.
The deals are sweet, and we are willing to work with y'all or whoever else comes knocking at the door. That's just the New Bedford Whalers way. Fellas,
At some point we need to keep track of how many trades each GM has made, because I feel like out of everybody,
you lead.
right, correct me. Oh, wait, I wasn't going that direction. I was going to
You lead.
I was going to say you at the bottom. And
I told you why. I told you why. I told you why. People don't want to interact with me because as soon as I say someone's valuable, it's a wrap. People then hold on to them like it's the, golden ticket. That's why I traded Joe. You come in, you got people willing to throw you Devontae Adams for a can of paint. I can't get Amendola. I can't get Amendola for Marlon Mack, right? That's the problem. That's the beginning and end of the discussion.
So here's why I like trades, right?
Yeah.
Is you gotta see where the disparity in the value that GMs place on their players.
Yep.
So if you throw enough, nets out there, something's going to catch. So I'm a volume guy. Hey, Justin, I'm thinking this. No? Okay. Hey, Ryan, I'm thinking this. No? You go until you see a disparity in value. And if you keep doing that successfully, then you get a better team. And also for me, I get a little rush of dopamine, like a trade, like it's something about a trade,
It's guaranteed you're going to hear from Joe within the first 3 weeks of the season.
That's funny.
Guaranteed.
So far I've reached out to Ryan.
You don't say.
And I've reached out to one other.
And what number pick do you have, Joe?
Number 5.
Got it. So he's at 5 trying to wheel and deal. Ladies and gentlemen, all of us are trying to make moves, getting ourselves ready for this big draft. Like I've been saying, next Wednesday, September 9th at 9 p.m. Thank you for joining us for our very first episode of the Indecision Cave show. We will be back next week, same time, same place, hopefully with some disparities about our draft, hopefully with some chatter about who we're taking. Until next week.
Yo, real fast though, before you end it. Just everyone's like top flyer, and it don't gotta be someone that you have on your draft board, but just one person that you're like, I might take a shot at. I'm interested.
Of course you are.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you like my 5th option, but I'm just gonna let you know like this is what I'm thinking, possibly. I'll go first. This was my question.
Yes,
so,
please.
And once again, like you're gonna be like, that's not even giving you enough. I am teetering on, and once again, it's gonna be a later round. So you're thinking about like keepers now, and like how this person, if you're thinking about like dynasty perspective, how they might play off the following year. I'm looking at Denzel Mims. To be very honest, Rashad Perriman has been hurt with a knee injury. It looks more serious than it has. So he's in there getting reps with Sam Darnold. I know he was injured previously, but he's back. And so he's one person I'm seeing get late, like 14, 15, 16 round, hoping that I get a huge return on him and can make him a keeper. So I'm just giving y'all a little insight. That's kind of what I was looking for later rounds.
Someone I'm looking at is James Washington, right? And the reason that I like James Washington is because, I mean, he pretty much lost the competition last year to Deontay Johnson. but I think he's still in the mix for it. And I think with Big Ben returning, like Big Ben has made everyone into a good receiver, right? Like just think about all the guys that we've seen: Plaxico, Hines Ward, um, Martavius Bryant, Antonio Brown. Like the list can just go on and on and on and on. And so I think there's definitely opportunity after Juju. I think Juju's going to have a big year. Like I'm in on Juju Smith-Schuster. But I think that Big Ben, as long as he stays healthy, is going to spread that ball around. I also am big on Connor. I think with Big Ben back, all these guys are going to ball out. Real quick, James Conner was a great player to have last year. He just wasn't worthy of a number one over like my first round draft pick, right? Like I was in a bad place with kind of how things fell. So I was forced to take him, but he balled out. He just missed some games. But I my like sort of let's see what he can do is James Washington, because I think Big Ben gets the ball to everyone. I think he can make three wide receivers play really well, and I think James Washington will be the person that gets the single coverage out of the slot kind of thing.
Well, I mean, even so, James Washington's a vertical guy, right? And so he's the one that can stretch the field. So,
Yeah,
and Big Ben likes to throw the ball down the field. So, James Washington's definitely a good catch. I've definitely done my research on him as well because he's like one of those guys you see laid off in like the later rounds. So, he's definitely a good look.
yeah. Justin, care to share?
Just on the spot, I'm gonna just say CD. I'm gonna take my chances with CD Lamb. Um,
You don't think that's a flooded receiving court? You think he's gonna get enough looks, or you just hoping for
that boy,
dynasty?
that boy is nice. Number one, number two. Everybody sleep on Dak's consistency.
Mm.
Um, and just like in that offense, so Dak really he's like top five. What I've been reading, he's top five in deep ball attempts. He's been top five in what is it, QBR past 2 seasons, and then just in general like fantasy points, he's been top five, and it's really been slept on. And now that he has like an actual threat to really like blow coverages up, and CD's just that to me. CD's that good of a player, so I feel like he'll make some noise. What you call the Cooper? He may drop a little bit. He may get exposed as not being as good as people want him to be. And CD is right there next in line. Gallup, he'll step it up. I think we're gonna be seeing CD for a long time, so that's my guy.
Trader Joe.
Okay, I thought I was on mute. Honestly, he's kind of high already. But honestly, there's some emotional attachment there. My guy Kareem Hunt. Um, I got him that year that he broke out, and like dude was phenomenal. And he only played 5 games last year, and now he has more time to acclimate himself to the offense. And Chubb isn't known to be a receiver. And dude, if Chubb goes down, like Hunt is just going to eat. And so I might be willing to reach on him a little bit because I think he'll have standalone value. With you know him being number two, he's number two, but he's a third down back, so he has
Right.
standalone value, and he can just rock it if Chubb were to go down.
Yeah, and
Got it.
I don't know if Chubb is back from concussion protocol. Like I said, I do my research, and so from the reports I've been reading on Kareem Hunt, he's been killing it at camp, and I believe their head coach was speaking about how he's a starting running back, right? And so that's value right there. I think for his ADP, it might be a little bit of a stretch
Right,
because he's sharing the backfield, but it's
right.
definitely something to look out. Yeah.
Love it.
Ryan, I don't know if you want to talk about top rookie standouts before we head out.
Yeah, might as well.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
think I think Justin. I mean, Justin kind of hit it off. I think Justin, you're good. You talked about CD Lamb, and so I'm assuming that's your top rookie uh, standout right there. I don't know if you have anyone else on your radar, but I'll at least start with you because you're the one who started with a rookie.
Yeah, CD, and then Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, yep, that would have been mine.
I think those two will definitely be making noise this year. Just on like the Colts and knowing Marlon Mack's tendency to get injured. Phillip Rivers, he likes to use multiple running backs, and Taylor's just that good. So as
And
long as
that O line considered, top of the league.
right. So yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he's there, and I already put out CD, so I know what it is.
Bro, on that note, one of the things I look forward to in the draft is seeing those surprises. Like, whoa, somebody took him there. So Mo was telling me in another league that someone took Jonathan Taylor in the second round. Now that's not happening in our league.
Mhm.
We ain't on that level. But that's the one of the things, because you do so many mock drafts and you envision being at the, for me, number 5 pick. Okay, this is what my team could look like. But when you get those reaches or somebody drops, like, wow, I didn't expect him to drop like that. Those
Right.
surprises are really enjoyable to me.
All right.
Yeah, so for me, I think, when we talk rookie standout, I'm going with Clyde Edwards Hilaire, probably as like, he's now become like the fan favorite kind of pick. I've seen him go as high as like number 8 in some drafts with people trying to grab the running backs early. And I think one thing that I saw with Andy Reid last year, I'm sure Ashton experienced it his whole fanhood with the Eagles, is that like Andy gets everyone involved. Everybody can get a piece of the pie. And so, I mean, Damian Williams had huge playoff games last year. Shady McCoy had big games last year. And this guy is going to get all of the love with Shady gone, with Damian Williams sitting out due to everything with the coronavirus. I think a number 1 back, with the focus being on Tyreek Hill taking the top off the ball, Travis Kelce. I think CEH is a can't miss guy, but just because everybody is kind of talking about him, we'll put him aside for 1 second. The guy who I'm kind of intrigued about is Cam Akers out in Los Angeles. And the reason that I'm in on Cam Akers is because he does a little bit of everything, right? He can catch the ball, he runs very hard. Um, and right now, he's competing with Darrell Henderson for the starting spot, and Darrell Henderson has had his fair share of opportunities to kind of earn the job, and he
Right.
hasn't exactly performed in the way that says this is my A back, this is my back number 1. So I don't know where Cam Akers is going to necessarily fall, but I'm definitely in on the Florida State Seminole Cam Akers.
Would you be
Man,
comfortable with him being your RB2, or would it have to be a flex or a bench?
No, I think my overall fear with the Rams, excuse me, with the Rams is that last year they kind of took what seemed like a step back. I know 2 years ago they were the hottest thing going. They made it to the Super Bowl, so the expectations were lofty. But in general, I just felt like the offense took a step back last year. Maybe it was because Gurley wasn't involved as much as we thought, and we ended up learning that it was an injury. But just in general, I'm a little bit nervous about, has the NFL caught on to Sean McVay? If they have, then I don't want Cam Akers as my number 2. If they have not caught on to Sean McVay, then I am definitely willing to look at Akers as an RB2 if I already have some wide receiver depth, or if I
Right.
already have a really strong running back number 1, right? Like if he's my RB2 and he's kind of around the projections of my RB1, I don't like that. But if I have Dalvin Cook and then some other wide receiver that's pretty strong, and then I can get Cam Akers in the 3rd or 4th round, I don't mind that because I do think he's going to get a lot of love. And, McVay has shown that he likes to use the running backs.
all right, so I'll go real fast. I know we're kind of running out of time. So just a couple of things off of Cam Akers. I've been seeing him go a little bit later in my mock drafts. A little annoyed because he was someone that I was like really trying to look at later on. I wouldn't make him my RB2, just because I don't really, I don't really trust it yet. Just because they're doing a RBBC in LA. One thing to do know is Darrell Henderson's out with an injury right now, so Cam Akers is getting a lot of the
Right.
first
First
team
team rep.
reps. Yeah. Same thing with Kansas City. If we're talking about top rookie standouts. We saw what happened with Kareem Hunt his rookie year, right? And so you're expecting something close. And if you can you strike gold on that? Which, I mean, you're not really striking gold because he's going in like the first or second round
Right.
in most ADPs, if kind of his average. You're still going to get a quality running back. I
Right.
think outside of that, if we're talking receiver, I want to see what Henry Ruggs does in Las Vegas. I'm thoroughly interested in seeing how that looks out, especially with Tyrell Williams being placed on IR. Now it looks like he's second opposite of
Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
I hope he's not a John Ross, another speedster who just can't put it together.
Yeah, you hope not. But yeah, that's what I got.
Word.
The first show.
Great first show.
I don't know if you want to take us out, Ryan. Go ahead.
Oh, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought we had ended the show, but we did not end the show. That's the kind of extra love that you are going to get from the Indecision Cave. So again, thank you for joining us for our first episode. Again, we draft next Wednesday, September 9th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We might have some analysis about that. See you next week.